Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we're going to be talking about a topic that we're all concerned about, as education is the key. And we have an exemplary person with us this evening, Dr. Carla Little. She's a member of the Woodland District 50 Board of Education, and she's also employed by the Illinois Department of Public Health, among the many other numerous activities that she's been associated with. And she's going to share some of those with us during the time that we have. So, good evening, Dr. Little.
Oh, good evening, Dr. Brooks.
We're very happy that you've taken time from your busy schedule, literally, to be with us on Community Forum. My ratings went up when you appeared on Community Focus, my radio show, a few weeks ago, and I thought I want to keep those ratings going, and so I'm glad that you accepted the invitation to be with us this evening. We're going to be talking about several topics, but I want, first of all, for you to tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background.
Okay. Well, Carla Little, I'm been a resident of Lake County in Gurnee, Illinois since 1997, 98. Okay. And my husband came here, he was coaching with the Chicago Bears. Oh. So that's how we started in the community. I joined the Woodland School Board in 1999, and I've been serving since that time. I'm the mother of 4 beautiful daughters that range from age 25 through 18. So 2 have graduated from college, and 2 are currently in undergrad at Indiana State University. I just dropped them off last Friday.
Yes, in Terre Haute. Right?
In Terre Haute, Indiana.
Okay.
So I serve on the Woodland School Board. I work for the Department of Public Health in the Office of Preparedness and Response. We handle all the public health emergencies for the state of Illinois. I also serve as a scientific board member for the Chocolate Chips Association, which is a subsidiary of Girl Scouts, but it has a STEM focus. I also serve as a board member for Hope Academy, which is a new group of individuals, mostly Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, that is looking to help to find solutions for, educational solutions for young men in the community.
Already our listening audience have decided that you are a person that Lake County should know, and we're going to find out more as we go along. Tell us, how was it raising 4 girls?
It was a great experience. First of all, I had and I'm sure every woman says this, but it's very true. For me, I had a great husband and a great, better father than husband, if you can imagine. And he was very supportive, and we did everything together. And the girls are, I think, a great combination of Steve, my husband who passed away 2 years ago, and also, I think, me. And so it was just a wonderful experience of raising 4 beautiful daughters.
By being parents in the educational field, you think that has a great deal to do with their being involved in the education field themselves? Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think we taught our kids at an early age that their goal was always to graduate from college, to have a career. So we always put it in that terms that their goal is to have a career, and if that career, some careers you have to graduate from college to pursue, others you don't.
Okay.
So I always let them understand the difference, that their goal was to have a career, and maybe college was the path for that, and they've all chosen careers that, take you through that path, but even though that's not the case for everybody. So I support, as an educator, as a lifelong educator, I support career paths, career movement education that leads to careers, not necessarily. Not everybody has to go through college, which I know is a whole different thing. But
now, were you the first college graduate in your family?
I was, of all of my sisters, I am actually one of 5 girls, and I am the first that went traditionally through a 4-year program, baccalaureate program. But since that time, out of the 6 of us, I think 4 of us have degrees.
Now, what piqued your interest to go to college and major in the, educational field?
Well, I I started off. I've actually since 4th grade. My mom, she was very. I come from a long line of very intelligent, very strong. Females. And, on my father's side and my mother's side, so that was a blessing. Okay. And my mom always, back in the day when you had the encyclopedia, you'd buy the box set of encyclopedias and you would get the new book every year. I used to read the encyclopedias. Growing up in Indiana in the cold winters, not a lot to do but read in those winters. So I used to read the encyclopedia, and one of the things I learned, I think in 4th grade, and it formed me, was learned about the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And so from 4th grade on, that was always my goal, to work for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, being a little colored girl from, Indianapolis, right. I thought I had to get a MD, medical doctorate, to pursue a career in science, not ever having met a PhD, and especially never meeting a PhD even later on that looked like me. So I thought I had to get an MD. So when I started off in undergrad, I was pre-med, and then going through the undergrad process and taking different classes, and it expanded my horizon, and I realized that I could actually get a PhD. So I majored in biology and minored in chemistry, and actually have a secondary degree in medical technology, with the understanding that I would pursue a degree in science. And then I actually, when I graduated from Indiana State University, I went back to Indianapolis and just sort of have a sister who's 7 years younger, and I encountered some things that made me realize that the younger people needed strong educators as well as scientists. So I did take a detour. I went back to Indiana State for a year and got a degree in secondary science education, and I ended up teaching for about 3 or 4 years. I taught in Gary, Indiana, as well as in Indianapolis. And then I went to Purdue, met up with a guy who became my mentor, Dwight Lewis, and at Purdue University, and ended up going back to Purdue, and Gerald Crockover is another very influential person in my life. And I ended up going back to Purdue and getting a PhD, because meeting those guys and meeting other people, it made me realize that somebody like me, somebody who looked like me, could get a PhD. And I ended up getting a PhD in molecular biology with a concentration in virology. During my time at Purdue, I also served as a consultant for secondary science education, teachers that were pursuing their internships. How you, as a teacher, you finish your curriculum and then you go do student teaching. Well, I would be that person that would come out and support that student teacher and evaluate them. So I did that for a few years while I was at Purdue to stay involved. And then, like I said, we came up here. My husband was coaching with the Bears. I decided to stay home full-time with my girls, and that was an opportunity to join the school board. So I still wanted to give back to the community, and I think it's important that we all give back to the community. So during that time, even though I was a stay-at-home mom, we decided that I would join the school board, so I did, and I loved it. And you know, it's just a service to me. You know, education is the key.
Okay.
And
okay.
so I just have stayed with it. I feel like I'm hopefully serving a purpose for the community.
I can reflect, we have 3 youngsters and they all are college grads also, but when they were about to graduate from high school, I asked them were they going to college. And so my son quickly said, "Daddy, do we have a choice?" You know, because knowing that education is the key in order to, really with any profession, really. And also, early start is the key too, because there's data that shows that a child, if he or she is having difficulty by the 3rd grade, some may say the 5th grade, that's each year the child's going to get further and further behind. By the time they get to high school, they're not going to be able to keep up, and they drop out. And then what's going to happen? They going to do the things that cause them to be incarcerated, you know.
Yeah.
And you know what? Once they get a felony on their record, you know, then they're practically doomed. It's very difficult, you know, to get it off your record. So it is a key even from early, and that's the reason the parental guidance is so important. And that sounds like what you had too in your early childhood years, right?
Yeah, I did. Lots of parental guidance. It was a village
Okay.
that helped to raise us strong family connections. My father actually passed away when we were younger, and my mom had a lot of support from her mother and her family. But you know, we tried to provide that same support to our girls. You know, my husband's family, he has, you know, he's one of 3 brothers, and they're very supportive. His parents are very supportive. So yeah, so it was definitely strong support.
It sounds like you've had God on your side too, right? Because there are people that if they have death in the family, they would practically give up, you know, and so forth.
Yes.
But you sound like you have very strong connections within the family.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it's been a process for us. You know, I grew up, you know, in a family that believed in, you know, family of believers. We believed in Christ, and that was passed on. And as a mother, I had to make decisions about what was best for my kids and how to raise them. And my husband was, you know, had strong faith. And I just remember staying as a full-time mom, staying home from work. I went through Bible study classes so that I could better raise my kids. And, you know, because I think one of the things I learned is that, you know, God always is there for us. But sometimes we don't know it, we don't see it, and I just wanted to have a foundation of faith to raise my girls, because I know that no matter what happens in your life, if you have faith, you have everything. And so God has been so good to us, even through my husband's illness and through just rebuilding, and we're still rebuilding. He's only passed away 2 years ago. We just got rid of his clothes, you know, maybe about 6 months ago. So we're still rebuilding, but yeah, God has been so good to us.
Tell us, in your advancement in employment, I'm sure you probably have experienced some effects of discrimination. But tell us how important it is, what effects does discrimination have in employment, especially of African Americans?
Wow, yeah, that is such a big question. I have, in working with the Illinois Department of the Public Health, I've never ever experienced discrimination like I've experienced with the Illinois Department of Public Health. Now, growing up in Indianapolis as a colored kid, you know, little colored girl back in, you know, the 1960s and 70s, you know, I of course have been around racism, but it was always more of a racism of an indifference or low expectations, more so than just blatant hatred.
Okay.
What I've experienced at the Illinois Department of Public Health is just blatant hatred.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the Illinois Department of Public Health.
Yeah, it's scary. And I have said this to people, and I think that people find, you know, they I don't know when they find it offensive when I say it, but I truly feel that if the people, there are certain people, and it's not everybody in the department, there's key people that are the root of the evil.
I hope it's not the influential.
It is the influential people, and that's why, you know, I'm speaking out against it, because I think you have to speak out, you know, against, you know, when powerful people take on racist tendencies. Me as an American citizen, as an advocate for all Americans, I feel like I have to speak out. I've spent my life advocating for education, advocating for the community. So I think this is another avenue for me to advocate and speak out against this blatant racism that's happening. But, you know, I feel like if really the hatred is so fierce and intense when I'm dealing with these people, that if they have the opportunity to really take me outside in Springfield, Illinois, and rape me butt naked and hang me, I think they would do it. I think that is the pure, that's how I feel. I feel so scared. You know, the chief of staff at the Illinois Department of Public Health, I came out of my house one day, he was sitting in my cul-de-sac in Gurnee, Illinois, checking on me. I mean, that's the level that they're willing to go to find something on me to justify their bad treatment of me, firing me, minimizing my job responsibilities. I mean, it's scary.
And we we wonder, well, I might as well mention, I've been in the field of equal employment opportunity for, my last 10 years of employment was with equal employment opportunity. And it was pretty blatant also, because the commanding officer of the Naval Training Center, Great Lakes, Public Works Center, is where I was employed, at our department head meetings would tell the department heads that they want them to support Brooks's program. Now, right away I was thinking that this is his program. I'm his assistant. You know, I'm the deputy EEO officer, right? And I know, see, so words can play a major part, and you can read from what people are saying, you know, what they mean. So, but really, since I've been in this area for the past over 50 years, I've seen, and I have faith. He's mentioned faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. You know, I'm still looking for those that are not seen, and I can't figure out why there's so much hatred. Now, maybe one of these days, you know, it'll be shown to us. Why should I hate you because of the color of your skin? I don't know.
You know, and I wonder that question, and that's again why I'm speaking out against the racism, because I would like to understand their perspective, like why, what have I done to them that makes them hate me so? You know, I try to work to the best. I love my job, first of all. I think it's one of the best jobs in the state of Illinois, in the country. What I do, I love it. I think it's so, you know, I'm very passionate about it. People who know me know I love what I do. I give it 100%. And so for you to look at somebody like me who's given you 100%, working weekends, working nights, just doing everything I can, meetings, trainings, doing whatever I can to make this state a better state and make us more ready for a public health emergency. If you, why would you look, why are you sitting outside of my house? Why are you accusing me of things that I haven't done? Why are you falsifying the record and lying on other people to come after me? And that's some of the things that the leadership at the Department of Public Health has done to, you know, justify their bad behavior against me. And so I would like to understand why. Why me? You know, why are they so bent on getting me? You know, there have been other African Americans since the Rauner administration, and I have reported this to Governor Rauner, so this is on the record. I've sent letters to him and just reporting this, that since he took office and appointed the director, the assistant director, and the chief of staff, key African Americans in the agency were targeted for harassment and let go. They're also willing to speak out. You know, I have names. I've given those names to elected officials. Like I said, I started off by giving those names to the governor's office, Governor Rauner, hoping that he would see what I'm talking about.
Because he inherited this situation.
Well, he brought him in.
He brought him in.
He brought them in, yeah. So that's why I went directly to the governor's office thinking, okay, Governor Rauner, if you saw this racism this blatant racism that's happening, hopefully you would fix it. It wouldn't have to go any further. But the more I've spoken out against it, the more they've come after me. So.
Well, I'm going to have a program with. I've had several with women. It's Caucasian, African American, and so forth. I'm going to have a show with all of them together on the same panel to talk about this situation. I've had forums that I've had, you know, people in top positions and in areas that come in and speak. But we talk about the problem, but then there's what about the solution?
Yes.
We don't have any solutions to, you can't put everybody in jail, you know.
Right, right,
So,
you can't.
Here's a situation like Serena Williams, the #1 tennis player. She's been there for about 3 or 4 years, the #1. Her shoulder's bothering her now, so she's weak. She may lose her #1 rating soon if she doesn't start winning again. But you should see the remarks and people calling her gorilla and so wait a minute. She's playing and she's making you rich. They're getting rich off of her, multi-billionaire, you know. Like she mentioned, she told them that the stands are filled only when she plays. You know, people come out and see her. But yet and still they're going like to say just blatant discrimination.
Yeah.
And remember her father, Richard, who's ill now, brought them up playing tennis when they were about 3 or 5 years old. He had to take them out of Indian Wells, I think. That was a tournament they had played, and people could just use the N-word and talk about it. And they loved to see them play, they're the best. But then, so it's something about it that we don't understand. Maybe I would get some ministers on to come in and maybe they could to really explain this, you know.
Yeah.
You got the best of education, you're performing on your job, and you're not hurting anyone, you're helping out the administration, and then you have to go through this type of thing.
Yeah, just all kind of
What
accusations.
about the civil rights, the NAACP or the Department of Human Rights? We have that in Illinois. Is that effective?
Well, I have filed a complaint with the EEOC, the federal agency.
Okay.
That when you file a complaint there, it's also goes to the Illinois Department of Human Rights.
Okay.
I have filed in the agency with our EEO officer and with the ethics officer because, long story short, the deputy director for the Office of Preparedness and Response is also African American. I reported directly, me and another person, white male, reported directly to the deputy director for the Office of Preparedness and Response, and that deputy director reports directly to the director, Director Shaw, Nirav Shaw, who took over under the Rauner administration. So when Nirav Shaw came in, Director Shaw came in, they removed me from reporting, me and this other white male reporting directly to the deputy director, Winfred Rawls.
That was not your chain of.
They didn't like the fact that a black woman was reporting to a black man.
Okay.
They didn't, and they did a lot of other things, but that were blatant. But that was really kind of the most, I think, egregious, blatant thing that they did in that particular situation. They've done many others, and I've documented them all. So I filed an EEO complaint, an ethics complaint, because the person they assigned me to is actually a crony of this new administration, not qualified for the position, and you know, shouldn't really be working in that position. You know, unfortunately, that's the case there. And this person who they assigned me to, her sole role appears to be finding a way to document discipline against me. So I'm always dealing with discipline accusations, like almost on a weekly basis. You know, I didn't do my time report right. I didn't, you know, it was just all kind of petty things. And long story short, I filed a complaint. Nirav Shaw, Director Shaw, sent back this was back in December, mind you, where I filed the complaint, had the meeting with our EEO person and with the ethics person. I kept asking, you know, these things are still happening, so on a monthly basis from January through July, almost monthly, I sent them more complaints against my current supervisor, Gina Suela, and they ignored me. And I said, you know, I've filed a form, and at one point the ethics officer said, you need to file a complaint. And I said, well, I have filed a complaint. You guys have ignored me. So Director Shaw, back in just a couple of weeks ago, sent a report saying he justified the reason why he changed my reporting structure and nobody else's in the agency, that because of the National Incident Command, NIMS, National Incident Management System, required him to do that, which is a blatant falsehood. You know, so I guess I'm saying all that to say is that even when I've complained within the department, they will lie to justify their behavior. And I find it shocking that you have professional, well-educated, this man has an MD, he has a JD, lying to justify the racism, you know, and without regard. How do you, I guess the question is, who holds them accountable? You know, who holds them accountable that he's willing to lie? Like all of his responses, and then my other allegations, which are plenty, he goes unfounded. At one point they said they interviewed 4 people and they wouldn't disclose who those 4 people were, but they said that these 4 people said Dr. Little is resistant to change. And I'm like, I go to all of these training classes, I'm performing training classes, I work on a plan that's continuous, that's never done, so I gotta be willing to change as new information comes in. But you tell me that I'm willing to change, and are these, they didn't interview my interns, you know, they didn't interview other, you know, African Americans that I've talked with. It's very few that work in our agency, in our department, that interact with me on a daily basis. So who are the 4 people? And then it almost sounds like ageism, because here, Dr. Little, you know, here I am sitting here over 50. So is that saying, you know, old people are not willing to change, right?
Wow. It is amazing. So I'm glad. I was going to mention the importance of providing education, training, and professional development. It's very important to do that, but you're in a position to do it, and you still, you know, find it difficult to adjust to what we call not so-called racism, but blatant racism.
Yeah, I would.
You know?
Like I said, I would love to understand it. I do try to. I've read. I've been dealing with the issue of racism for a long time since I've been with the Illinois Department of Public Health.
Okay.
The only difference here is now we have the administration, the director's office, the director, the assistant director, and the chief of staff perpetrating the racism. But I've always dealt with it at a lower level.
Right.
Since I started with the department, and I've read books. I've read books about bullying, workplace bullying. I've read books, about how to work with men in the workplace, how to work with women in the workplace. I've really tried to read books. Education is the key, right? Exactly. So I really tried to educate myself so that I could be so I could respond better to these people that have problems against me. Mm-hmm. Because how they always taught us, you can't change other people, you can change yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I've really spent time trying to understand who they are so that I could work better with them, so that I'm not creating presenting a persona where I'm antagonizing them. Yeah. And it still hasn't worked. No matter what I've done, the racism just keeps coming. Mm-hmm. It's just, I'm flabbergasted at this point.
We talked about solutions. We know the problem, but solutions. When I was part of the Equal Employment Opportunity system, Justice Charles Thomas was head of the EOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And he came to Chicago in...
Clarence Thomas?
Clarence Thomas.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the head of the EOC. Yes. And he came to Chicago. He called all the deputies together, and we talked. And we were looking for some solutions. And that's some time ago, and he said that what we want you to do is go back and try to, resolve the problem within the organization. We're coming to him for some solutions. He telling us to go back and resolve ourselves.
Right.
Now, and I'm just want to know, is there a solution to the problem? Is there? And I know it is, but what is it?
Right. I find that very interesting because, again, I've reported these, what I consider these racist acts, these blatant racist acts to be ethical violations. Okay. And I've reported it to the Office of the Executive Inspector General for the state of Illinois, who handles ethics violations. Okay. And that's what they told me. They've turned it back over to the director of the Department of Public Health, who is basically perpetrating these racist acts against me, to investigate. So I just think that's strange. I think there are solutions. I think that there's no incentive for people who are perpetrating these blatant racist acts to perform better. If your leadership is not holding you accountable to a higher level, then there's no reason to change, because you're being rewarded for your they're being rewarded for their bad behavior. So why would you change if you're being rewarded for that? Right? You don't change things that you get reward from.
Okay.
And that's the problem at this point. No one takes racism. Very few. We take racism seriously because it's perpetrated against us. Mm-hmm. But I think if that's like sometimes even bullying in elementary schools, sometimes people don't take bullying seriously because, oh, you just need to be thicker skinned. Oh, you just need to ignore that kid, not realizing the damage, the impact that bullying has on people. Racism in the workplace is worse, first of all, because they're trying to steal your livelihood, your ability to raise your children. So it's very serious, but the impact, but I think people just sort of sweep it under the rug. you know, you're being sensitive, you're playing the black card or,
Okay.
you know, the woman card or whatever. They don't, you know, but I think as a society, we just have to take things a little bit more serious and realize the detriment that, you know, all of the harassment and the anger and the hatred, you're pounding that on one person or a few group of people. That's not healthy. I mean, and we can get into the whole health disparity issues with,
Okay.
you know, minorities.
Well, we
because of
may
it.
want to talk about that, but one other area I just want to mention, we have a lot of youth, I guess, watching the program too. But there's a disparity between education. We say education is the key, right? Disparity between education in communities just south of us and the local community. But, and I'm sure the children, the students, are aware of that, you know, in the communities south of us. So they've been taught that they're superior, and the communities that we're living in here raise up, believe that they're pounded into them that they're inferior. Well, how do we overcome that? You know, this type of thing. Now we know that there's one thing that we try to justify. Well, we say because of the income levels and the real estate values, the more higher taxable property and so forth, that the resources are greater. You know, we try to justify it that way.
Right.
But actually, well, the resources are not in the poor communities, so they don't have the up-to-date equipment and all this type of thing, the proper teaching and so forth. But that's another problem within itself, you know. We don't have but it's more than just not having the resources and the income. It's that the students have been taught that they're superior.
Right.
And when they go off to college, they find out that they're not superior. You know, it's like I say, you excel where you went. My wife is in med tech also. She has a degree from training from Northwestern University, and she did in charge of the laboratory here locally.
Oh, really?
In America, before she went into the area that she's in now. So they find out that, hey, you know, you can learn just as well as we are. We're on the same level, and what happened, they intermarrying and so forth, and see, what we were taught is not true, and it caused them confusion of the mind.
Right.
So you're really hurting the youngsters.
Right.
You know, so what do we do to try to correct that situation? In other words, you in an area, the Woodland School District, where you don't have, do you have the same disciplinary problem down there as you have in the communities just north of you?
I don't know that we've compared. I don't have the data with me, but I do know in Woodland District 50 that we have had situations where there has been disparate discipline based on ethnicity and race, and we do tend to track those things and also provide some remediation to those teachers that appear to be perpetrating the disparity of discipline based on race and ethnicity. So you do find that. I say as a board member that, you know, if parents are experiencing things like that, definitely come to the board, make us aware of it, because that's important to us, that we don't want inequality in our system. So, because everybody's bringing a little bit of baggage with them, right, when they come.
Right.
So, but our superintendent, Joy Swoboda, I think you know Joy, Dr. Swoboda.
Yeah.
She is, and we have a great administration overall, and she and her administration our administration, we do track those things and we take them seriously. So we see if we're aware of disparity in treatment, discipline, especially, we definitely act upon it.
I know Vernon Hills, you probably saw in the paper, that was a couple. Matter of fact, was a retired football player from the Bears too. I forgot his name there, but he and his wife experienced disparities in treatment of their student. And do you know that they were challenged by the courts, and they received probation or something, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I hadn't heard that.
And they reported disparities, you know, among their child and other students. And so you mentioned about being in a higher level of that's in the courts. Maybe they had a better lawyer than he had, a higher paid lawyer or something, you know. But that shouldn't be. Well, tell us about, you mentioned about health systems preparedness. Tell about your, we may talk about disparities since we're on this racism, disparities in health.
Well, I would not be prepared to discuss that today, Dr. Brooks. I would bring you some very well-prepared experts to talk about health disparities. I could talk about the work that we do in the Office of Preparedness and Response.
We'll do that tonight, and I look forward to, because I have periodic forums, you know, and I love to have.
Yeah, we have some great people within our department that can talk health disparities. You know, I think personally as an African American, you know, when I read about health disparities, and especially going through the racism, the blatant situation that I'm in right now, I understand why there's health disparities. I know that I personally, you know, have been very anxious and just in fear. You know, for the last year, they started attacking me like a year ago in June, and it's been unrelenting since that time. You know, June there was one thing, September there's another thing.
And you filed complaints? I
have filed complaints and tried to respond, you know, positively, as positive as I can in these situations, and not antagonize people. But I have definitely documented and filed complaints along the way. So, and you're thinking about talking to a person who lost their husband 2 years ago. So so a year ago when they started attacking me, I hadn't even completed the grieving process. So to compound all of this all these attacks, racist attacks, on top of the grieving process, I do definitely have appreciation for why people have heart attacks, why there's strokes, why there's depression. You know, right. It's taught me a lot, you know, about how this stress impacts my health, and I, you know, have been, you know, obviously in prayer. Prayer is number one for me, and then just trying to, you know, do exercise and eat better. But I've definitely experienced a lot of depression, and you know, just anxiety and fear because of how I've been treated. So I understand why people can have heart attacks and strokes and get cancer. You know, why that's, you know, why we're, you know, why there's such health inequities and disparities in the Black community. If you know, if you're living in a situation of poverty and you're always under stress, you know, how that can impact your health, and then not having access to adequate healthcare system. Because you think about it, I work for the state of Illinois, so state of Illinois hasn't paid their bills for the last year. So, you know,
no budget for past 2 years. I guess.
So people don't realize that affects health insurance. So doctors don't want to see me. You know, the dentist doesn't want to see me because the state of Illinois is not paying their bills. So can you imagine, you know, the impact that I've had in dealing with not only the racism and the anxiety and the stress, but then not even having adequate access to health care because the state of Illinois is not paying our bills. So now doctors are like, you know, suing me. So it's been a stressful year dealing with it all. But in terms of, so that's my thought on health, my personal experience with health inequities, but I would love to get you in touch with the right people to talk about it from a more scientific aspect of it, public health aspect. The work that we do in the Illinois Department of Public Health Office of Preparedness and Response, like I said, we handle all the public health emergencies for the state of Illinois. So not like routine outbreaks, but once that outbreak gets to a level where it's affecting regions in the state and the whole state, then our office, the director, our deputy director, serves as the incident commander, and he would coordinate that event. So he's coordinating right now the Zika response in Illinois, getting prepared for that. We coordinated the H1N1 response. The program that I lead on a daily basis is medical countermeasures, so emergency medical countermeasures planning. So if there's an event, say for instance the H1N1 outbreak where we had to push antiviral out to every local health department and hospital in the state of Illinois. So that's what we do. So I would handle if there's mass vaccination related to smallpox or mass vaccination for a novel influenza, or mass dispensing as a result of an anthrax attack or other event, or even if it was an earthquake, some other natural event where the resources at the local level have been overwhelmed, then our program is in place to push those needed resources out to local health departments and hospitals so that we can take care of the citizens of Illinois. The CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has what's called the Strategic National Stockpile, and they stockpile an abundance of resources that can be called upon in situations where we have to do that. They also have, work with the Veterans Administration and Department of Defense. So if those resources that are within the Strategic National Stockpile are not sufficient, then they can leverage the buying power of the VA to get more resources on the ground as quickly as possible. The CDC does this every day. They're responding to Zika from a Strategic National Stockpile position in terms of putting resources in Puerto Rico. They've worked during Hurricane Katrina's, again, H1N1, but that's basically what we do daily, is ensure that local health departments have plans to receive resources and mass prophylax our citizens, ensure that hospitals have plans to receive the resources, and and for mass treatment, what we call medical surge, patient surge on the hospitals. So we just make sure, we try to ensure that, that at the local level we're ready to save as many of our citizens of Illinois as possible.
Dr. Little, what is on the horizon for Dr. Little? You've had outstanding training and education, and you in the health field. You have the family that you have been expert at. You got the children interested in education and so forth. But what about you? What's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal? I don't know. You personally, professionally, I'm still a work in progress. Like I said, I lost my husband 2 years ago. That has changed my focus, where I'm going, who I am as a person. I don't know anymore. I got to relearn who Carla Little is, and my girls are all off. Either have graduated from college or in college right now. So I don't know who I am. So I got to figure that out. I do have to say that within Lake County, I have such a good group of people around me. I have beautiful friends. I go to Lakeland Evangelical Free Church, and when I say that these people have been very supportive of me and just have prayed for me when I couldn't pray for myself, so as I've gone through all of these trials and tribulations this last 2 years, and even when my husband was sick, I've just had so many beautiful people around me praying for me and supporting us and just keeping us uplifted, that I just feel like I feel so hopeful. And I feel that if I just keep learning, keep educating myself, you know, I'd like to go back to school and get a master's in epidemiology and continue to work in public health, especially in the Office of Preparedness and Response, or an area of public health preparedness and response, and just continue to give my best self, you know, serve my best self to, you know, the citizens of Illinois, the citizens of the United States of America, the world.
You know, this, you're in a similar situation as, I don't know where you may have heard about this situation. Another young lady was very successful like you are in education and so forth, and her husband was a coach, I believe, a basketball coach at Northwestern University, and they were living in Skokie, I believe, and one of these skinheads shot him.
Right.
You remember that?
I remember that.
Shot him, and he had his daughter with him and this type of thing, you know. And that kind of changed her focus. I had contact with her, and I wish I had kept that. I don't know. I think she may have moved. I think someone said she may have moved to Atlanta. But she was saying, why does this happen to her? They just beginning to live, very successful,
Yeah.
you know, family and so forth, you know. And things happen, you just don't know why.
Yeah, you don't know why, and you know, it's easy to get angry and get depressed, and because I've been there, I understand that emotion, I understand that space now, because I've lived in it. But I have to, like I said, the hope. I think the reason why I have such hope and can continue is because, you know, of the strong support I have, of the fact that my church is praying for me, of the fact that, you know, my friends are so supportive of me, and I'm sure I get on their nerves, but I'm just Carla. They're like, okay, Carla, you're crazy. But, you know, I just have friends who accept me as I am. You know, as much racism as I've experienced, you know, the blatant and hatred, you know, I just don't know. I just want to make you feel, you know, it's so horrible, the things that I've experienced this last year. But there's so many people when I leave, like if I'm in the office in Springfield and I work outside, and then I'll meet a white person who's like, hey, how are you doing? You know, so I see there's so many good people out there. There's so much hope in this world. And I know I hope that doesn't sound too naive, but maybe I don't mind being naive in that place, because I want to believe in the goodness of everybody. But yeah, I think that's what keeps me moving forward and keeps me hopeful, that fact that I meet so many beautiful people. The Woodland, our administration, Joyce Woboda, Bob Leonard.
Secretary, the one that referred me to you.
Right, Jen Bova.
Yes.
Yeah, our public
person.
information officer.
I never met her, but she say, I asked her, I talked with her about racism, and she said, I know just the person that you need to meet.
And they are so supportive, and I talk to them. I've been very upfront with all my white friends about racism, and they, you know,
since we
it's
met,
a hard topic, but
I got you right away to be on program at one of the forums that I had, and then you accepted right away to be on the radio. Now you're on a TV program, and there's many other things. So I think this was just planned. Even before, as the scripture say, you were formed in your mother's womb. You know,
Amen.
God knew that
God
this
knew.
would take place here. You know, and so we're thankful again that you've taken time for your busy schedule. I'm sure our listening audience have benefited from the information, as we say in the Navy, promulgated to Lake County.
So next is solutions.
Solutions, yeah. we know the problems, and I'm sure somebody listening to this program are going to say, how do I contact Community Forum? I got some solutions for it, you know. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine named Willie Brooks, no Ken, though, you know, he's one that's been on the program several times. He that he seems to be my co-host. I had it
Ah.
on the program. So maybe I'll have you and a couple other people on together. And he may be a little selfish. He likes to be on by himself. I've given him the opportunity. But he has some suggested solutions, to solve this problem. And I'm sure that keep your faith in God.
Amen.
And I'm sure as long as you please him, that things are going to work out. Now, so you still with, do you have cadre people working for you, or you just an individual staff?
I'm a single individual staff working within a group of people in the department, in the Office of Preparedness and Response.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they realize how important you are there, but even though you might not think because of the bullying and also the harassing behavior, it's I wish I had solution. My solution is to have you share it to let Lake County know that this problem exists.
Yes.
Not only in your case, but in other cases throughout the county, throughout the state, and nationally. We watch TV, we see it exhibited nationally. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Dr. Carla Little. She's a member of the Woodland District 50 Board of Education. She's also employed by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And we've been talking about the importance of education, been talking about racism and how it affects the mental health of people that they really don't realize how it helps. And it really what it does is just rise the costs of our state budget and our federal budget. And we cannot even discuss how it affects the individual. It's going to cause the death and sickness and all this type of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.